Welcome back to the Road of Life podcast.
McKay and Bennett.
With Bennett and McKay.
Bennett and McKay. McKay and Bennett. However you want to say it. We're talking about today an interesting topic. We do a lot of... We're huge sports fans. Mm-hmm. So we
watch a lot of sports.
We love sports. It's probably our guilty pleasure. It's the thing that we like to do when we aren't busy with other things.
Like we don't watch movies.
We're not big movie people.
No.
We're sports people. Yeah. We'll watch a football game or usually a football game or a European football match.
Soccer.
Yeah. But yeah, or basketball or good Canadians. We might watch the occasional hockey game. But anyway, it's something that we've got some sports analogies with some of the strategies and tactics and things that we implement in our relationship. We've kind of built metaphors around sports for them. And one of the things that we do regularly in our relationship is we throw the challenge flag. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are also sports fans, you know that, in football, there's a challenge flag for when, so the coaches each on either sideline have a challenge flag on their belt that when a play happens on the field and the referee calls it a certain way, one of the coaches is probably not going to be happy with how that was called. It could be a close play, and they want the referee to take another look at that and hopefully reverse that decision. So they throw the challenge flag, which indicates to the referee to go and take a second and go review that play and make sure that you got that right. Mm-hmm. And so we use that analogy in our relationship. Mm-hmm. And so we metaphorically throw the challenge flag from time to time, and it's an opportunity when one of us has an issue with something that's going on in our lives, mm-hmm. and we just want to respectfully, because it's a process. Like in football, there's a process. It's a respectful process. And it happens without animosity, or it's mm-hmm. just here is my challenge flag. Can we just take a second and can we look at what we've done here and make sure we got the right
let's
call.
Take a quick time out.
Yeah.
Take a step back.
Yeah.
And take another look. Let's look at this from a different angle. Let's make sure.
Yeah. Let's make sure we got this right. It's an important play. Page. It's an important play. And so, as that translates to our lives, it's, we've made a life decision and we're going down a path. And maybe one of us is like, are we sure about this? Is this what we want to be doing? Is this where we want to focus our time? Is this what we were looking to accomplish here? Mm-hmm. And
so the first time, probably not the first time, but the most notable time, the most significant time that comes to mind for this is January 2022, which we've probably talked about that period of our lives. We have talked about that period of our lives before. We're just out of our corporate job and jumped headfirst into a real estate investing company, and we were actively miserable in that company.
We bought ourselves jobs that
paid us nothing, and then we hated.
Paid us nothing, and so significantly less than what we had left behind. And the job was, I would say, significantly worse than what we left behind. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even something that we enjoyed doing. So we
talked about this earlier on, the mistake, failing fast, moving on, of starting this company that we hated. And we talked about shutting it all down 6 weeks and all that. We've already talked about that. But what we didn't talk about was sort of the process by which we came to that decision. And we were, like we said, working that business for, 4 or 5 weeks at that point. And we were miserable.
And it wasn't one of those things where it's like, but 4 or 5 weeks, that's nothing. Like, it's just that's obviously when you start something like this, 4 or 5 weeks, you're not going to get where you want to go. You're going to have to push through. It wasn't one of those things where it was like, oh, no, we're on the right track. This is just growing pains and we're going to figure this out.
This is just hard. We can do hard.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was a feeling. I can't explain it. It was just in my gut feeling something that was like, this is not it. Wrong. This is not it for us. This is not what we need to be doing. This isn't going to be what makes me happy. Mm-hmm. And when I made that realization, I through the challenge, and to borrow, a recent episode, I got vulnerable because I wasn't sure exactly. Like, I could feel a little bit that maybe you were not quite mm-hmm. there as well. happy in what we had chosen to do, but not knowing. And also, we had invested some money in this, and it was a conversation where it was like, I'll bring this up to you. Are you going to be receptive to this?
Yeah, we were $25,000 into that in the first month.
Yeah. And so it was an opportunity to follow the process that we do for each other. And we just said, let's take a step back here and look at this for what we've, where we are. And is this where we want to be and what we want to be doing?
And the other part, I think that in that time is, we were both individually miserable, not fully aware of how miserable the other one was yet, but also a little snappy with each other.
Yeah, you could detect it was gonna impact our relationship, which is not like us at all. Yeah. And you could feel it was
we weren't ourselves individually, and we weren't ourselves together.
Yeah. And so I think it's that's why we wanted to talk about this today. Is it's really important in relationships when you're feeling that thing that's that something's off in your relationship. If, have that process in place, like where there's no judgment. It's not a I'm throwing the challenge flag, and then that means that this person.
What are you doing?
Yeah, you're not challenging the person. You're not challenging the person. This is not a judgment on them as a person.
There's a couple of important distinctions with a challenge flag, and you've just touched on one of them. You're never challenging a person.
Yeah.
You're challenging a decision, an action, a situation. You're challenging a thing. You're never challenging a person, someone. And so for us, with you're like, we need to talk about this,
Yeah.
Is this what we want to be doing? Are you happy doing this? Are we going to continue down this path? And we had a really open and honest conversation about how we were both feeling about not only the business, but how each of us were feeling as individuals, how it was impacting our relationship, and then separately also, what did we actually want our life to look like, which we'll get into in more detail in another episode. But that was sort of the premise of the conversation, and then because of this conversation, we realized, no, we're both freaking miserable.
Yeah.
We do not want to be doing this. This absolutely is not aligned with any kind of life that we want to be living. What the hell are we doing?
This actually makes no sense for us.
Makes zero sense for
us. And so if we hadn't thrown that challenge flag, who knows how long we would have
spun our wheels and been miserable.
And how long it would have affected our relationship.
Totally. And so, some people have asked, but how do you do it? Like, how do you engage in the conversation? How do you start the conversation? And honestly, what we think could be helpful is actually creating an actual challenge flag.
We don't necessarily have one. We didn't use one that day. We've created one since. We didn't have one that day. We literally just said, can we talk? And then it can be as simple as that. For some people, you don't need an actual prop. You can just say, can we talk and open it up and
I want to throw the challenge flag and talk about this situation.
Yeah, exactly. Or like McKay's point, you can have an actual prop where you just go to the cupboard or drawer or wherever you hold that thing and walk into a room where your partner is sitting and just throw the challenge flag, and that's a symbol that you want to have a chat. And then you just,
like a handkerchief or a bandana or anything at all.
Obviously, it's something you'll have to have, discussed ahead of time so that they know what that means. But if you, have that process set up ahead of time and have that conversation and understand the ground rules and kind of, the understanding that you're challenging the situation or a life decision and not the person, and so that there's no, taking anything personally.
Let's have an objective conversation. Let's get a 30,000-foot view of this situation as opposed to trying to look in a mirror. Let's bring ourselves out of the situation, fly up in the airplane and look down at it and look at it from a few different perspectives. And is this the situation, the decision, the action that we want to be taking based on whatever perspective you're taking, based on our relationship, based on our, future, based on the lifestyle
whatever it is,
based on whatever it happens to be for you. Have a look at that situation from a few different perspectives and being as objective as possible.
But if you have that conversation ahead of time and the person knows what the challenge flag means, it can really be a lot easier than having to verbally approach someone with hey, can we talk? Or I mean, I'm of the opinion that we should try to get our relationship to the point where that's not a big deal to have that conversation, to, you know, bring something up like that. But in the early stages, when we maybe haven't built that muscle yet, it's easy to just grab the flag out of the drawer and just throw it, and the other person knows. So now we're going to have a conversation.
Yeah. And to your point, like, depending on what the nature of it is, it can be a vulnerable conversation.
100%.
And vulnerability is never easy.
100%.
And so having this objective process discussed between you ahead of time does make it a lot easier to be able to start the conversation, which is always the hardest part.
Yeah. So I guess today it's all about, you know, a strategy for having a difficult conversation.
So for us, throwing the challenge flag is our strategy in engaging in a difficult conversation.
Yeah. So hopefully that's helpful for you. And if there's anything out there that you are going through in your life right now that has got you wondering whether it's the right path, or, you know, you're not happy with something, I would encourage you to adopt the philosophy, the process of throwing the challenge flag. And so maybe that's going and grabbing something that you can put together for a challenge flag and go talk to your partner about, you know, what you learned and how you want to approach this. And then just have that conversation of, you know, this isn't working for me, and this is not a personal attack. It's just, you know, this thing that we've decided together, I'm questioning it, and I just need to bounce some things off you to, I just want to let's check in on each other here and make sure that because what we're built, like, this is we're building a life together, and we want to make sure that we're both on the same page and happy and doing what it is that we're building. Yeah,
because we're on the same team.
Yeah.
And that's always a good reminder in these conversations, is that
it's really important to know
we're
that
on the same team, building a shared vision, trying to create our dream life together. And let's just double check that this decision we've made, or this course of action that we're taking, or this situation we've created for ourselves is actually the one we want for our future.
And and just start the conversation. That's where it starts. And that's like, to your point, that's the hardest part, is just starting that conversation, because once you get it going, then it'll just flow and you'll just work your way through it. But getting it started sometimes is the hard thing. And a lot of people suffer in silence, and you just don't want that for people.
Well, again, going back to what we were talking about in the previous episode, that's going to breed resentment. Resentment is going to poison your relationship. It's toxic for your relationship.
So throw the challenge flag and get it out there and get it dealt with, so that you're not having that resentment.
And this strategy, like, again, we've talked about it through the lens of our relationship, but this strategy works for business partners.
Everything.
This strategy works for colleagues. This strategy works for friends. So, you know, if you're having a need to have a difficult conversation about, you know, the trajectory the business is on with your business partner, throw the challenge flag.
100%. Get out there, throw the challenge flag. You get more than 2. In football, you get 2 per game. In life, unlimited. So use them. Throw them. Have the difficult conversation. And your life and your relationship will be that much better for it. So until next time.
Chat soon.
We'll chat soon. Bye, everybody.